So to isolate the x, and there's a couple ways that jump out to me to do this. One is we could just subtract 1/8 from both sides. Another way is we could get rid of all of the fraction bit by multiplying everything through by 64 and canceling out. And then it may end up with a fraction in the end, but it gets rid of the fraction for the first couple steps. But multiplying 64 times 5, that's quite a big number. Let's go with our first idea. Let's just subtract 1/8 from both sides. All right, so we end up with 5x to the 3, and we have 3/64 and minus 1/8. And we know that we're going to need a common denominator to do that. So rather than writing down 1/8, let's think about, well, 1/8, but in terms of 64 with the denominator 64. So multiply the bottom by 8, which gives us 64. Multiply the top by 8, which gives us just 8. Okay, so on to the next step, 5x to the 3, and we would end up with -5 over 64. Okay, so I guess the next step would be to divide both sides by 5, and so divide by 5. And so basically we end up with a 5 on the bottom, so it's 64 times 5. You could look at it that way. And so the 5's cancel out in the same way they cancel out there. We end up with x to the 3, and we're left with a -1 over 64. Okay, and so the cube root that we're interested in here is the 64. The cube root of 1 is just 1, so that's nice. But on the bottom, the cube root of 64 would be 4. So in order to take the cube root of both sides, we end up with x there, and we would have 1 over 4 there, and we would have it as a negative. And so, yeah, that would be a great final answer there.